Lesson 2, we will be discussing how to solve systems of linear equations by elimination. So when we eliminate something, we're taking a positive and a negative value, and it's eliminating because when you add those together, it equals 0. So first step is you want to arrange the equation with like terms in columns. Second step, you'll multiply one or both of the equations by the number so that the coefficients of one variable are the same number with opposite signs. You'll understand what I mean by that when we do an example. Step 3, add the equations from step 2, combine like terms, and that will eliminate one variable, and then you want to solve for the remaining variable. Your step 4, you'll be substituting the value you find from step 3 and solving for the second variable. And step 5 would be to check your solution in each of the original equations. So let's begin. So when I look at example 1, the first thing I notice, if I'm looking at my x values going down, I have a positive 6 and a negative 6. So if I were to add these two equations, those 6's will cancel because they're the same number and they're opposite signs. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to eliminate one of the variables, and we can do that by adding these two equations together. Okay, so the 6x and the negative 6x cancel when I add these two equations together, and then I can go to the y's. I have 6 plus 8, which is 14y, and then I would add the two numbers that they equal, so 66 plus negative 10, and that gives me 56. So what I can do here now is I could solve for the y value by dividing each side by 14. So if you're not sure what 56 divided by 14 is, you could use your calculator. So I'll get the calculator out, and I'm going to do 56 divided by 14, and it tells me my answer is 4. So what I've done is I have solved for one variable. Now I can take that one answer and I can plug it into an original problem to find out what my x value is. So I'm going to choose the top equation. Let me just highlight that. So I'm going to pick this top equation here and I'm going to write it out, but instead of the y value, I'm going to plug in the value that I found, which is right here. So I'm going to write 6x plus 6, and instead of the y value, putting parentheses there, and I'm putting the 4. So I substituted the y for 4. And then I'm going to write the rest of the equation out, equals 66. So I have 6x plus 6y, which is 4, equals 66. So now I'm going to use my information from lesson 1. I'm going to multiply. I want to get rid of those parentheses. So I'm going to write 6x, and then 6 times 4 is 24, equals 66. Now I can wall and floor and subtract the 24 from both sides. So I have 6x. Those cancel, equals, and then 66 minus 24 is 42. And then my last step would be to divide each side by 6. So x equals 7. 42 divided by 6 is 7. So I have found my x value and my y value, and that's kind of the whole point. So I'm going to highlight both answers and then show you how to write your final answer. So our final answer should be written as an ordered pair. So basically what we're saying is these two equations, they're linear equations, meaning they would create a line on a graph. And if I had two equations that I'm graphing, and I had the ordered pair 7 and 4, that's where the two equations would cross. So our final answer should be written in ordered pair form, meaning your x, comma, y value. Moving on to the next question. So the next question, we don't have the same thing as we did for the first one where we had the x's equaling each other. So I'm going to show you what I would personally do to make your life a little easier. You want to look at the two equations and determine what letter would be easier to create the same number and opposite signs. So what I'm going to do is I have a 14 and a 7. I think the easiest thing to do is always to eliminate x values and don't worry about anything else. So I'm going to put parentheses around my first equation, and I'm going to put parentheses around the second equation. And what I'm going to do, I have 14x and 7x. They're both positive. So if I multiply the top one times 7 and the bottom one times 14, 7 times 14 and 14 times 7 would equal the same exact number. But I need to make one of them negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw on a negative on my 7 that I'm multiplying. So I'm going to take each number and multiply it times -7 on that top equation. And again, you know, the calculator will always be very helpful, so I'm going to pull the calculator up. And I'm going to put in -7 times 14 to figure out that it equals -98. So -98x, and then I do -7 times 1y. So -7 times -1 would be plus 7y. And then I have -7 times -16. So I'll use the calculator to figure out the answer for that one. So I'm doing -7 times -16, and it gives me 112. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but on the bottom equation, I'm multiplying everything times 14. So 14 times 7, we've already figured that out. It equals 98 with an x. And then I'm going to do 14 times -8. I'm going to get the calculator out. And I get -112. And then I'm going to do 14 times -23. Again, I'll use the calculator. And I get -322. So pretty big numbers, but that's okay. So now what I should see is that my x values are the same on top and bottom, one positive and one negative. That means that they're going to cancel out now. So I'm going to add my two equations together. The x's cancel, and then I can add 7 and -112. I'm going to use the calculator. 7 plus -112 is -105. So -105y equals, and then I have to do my next math problem, which is -112, sorry, -112, oh, not negative, sorry, 112 plus -322. And I get -210. Then my last step here will be to divide each side by -105. So y equals, and if I divide these two things, -210 divided by -105, I actually get the answer of 2. So I've now found one of my final answers, my y value. I'm now going to use that answer and plug it into an original to find my x value. So I'm going to use the top equation. So I'm going to do 14x, the original, 14x minus, and instead of y, I'm putting in the value 2 in parentheses, equals -16. So to get rid of the parenthesis, I'm just going to distribute that negative to the 2. So 14x minus 2 equals -16. Now I'm going to do the wall and floor, add 2 to both sides. So I have 14x equals negative 16 plus 2 is negative 14. Last step, divide each side by 14. And I have x equals the negative divided by the positive equals negative 1. So my final answer in ordered pair form is negative 1, the x value, comma, 2. All right, moving on to the next problem. Okay, so we have a 1 and a 2 for our x values. So we can go through this pretty quickly. So again, I'm going to flip-flop the values. I'm going to put a 2 on top and a 1 on the bottom. Since they're both positive, I have to add a negative to one of the numbers so that I have opposite signs. So negative 2 is going to get multiplied to each thing. So negative 2 times 1x, negative 2x, negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6y, and then negative 2 times negative 12 is positive 24. On the bottom, I'm just multiplying everything times 1, so basically every number stays the same. 2x, negative 4y equals negative 12. Now you should see that we have common numbers, opposite signs, so when I put these together, those will cancel out. So I'm adding the equations together, they cancel. 6 plus negative 4 is 2y, and 24 plus negative 12 is 12. Last step here is to divide by 2. So we get y equals 12 divided by 2 is 6. My last step would be to take the y value and plug it into one of my equations, so I'll choose the first one. So I'm going to write 1x minus 3, and instead of y, I'm putting in 6 equals negative 12. I want to get rid of the parentheses, so 1x, and then I do negative 3 times 6 is negative 18 equals negative 12. I'm going to wall and floor it and add the 18 to both sides. So I have 1x equals negative 12 plus 18 is 6. And if you want to divide by 1, you can. Basically, x equals 6. So final answer, 6 and 6. Both x and y are the same. Okay, problem number 3. We're going to do the same thing over and over again here. So hopefully after some practice you're starting to get it. So first parentheses, I'm going to flip-flop the numbers. 3 and I'm going to put a 2. I'm only taking the digits. If you notice, one is positive and one is negative. So I'm going to multiply each top part times 3, giving me negative 6x. 3 times 4 is 12y, and 3 times 2 is 6. On the bottom, I'm multiplying everything times 2. So 2 times 3 is 6x, 2 times negative 6, negative 12y, and 2 times 15 is 30. So you may see something a little weird here, and that is that we have opposite signs for both numbers. So what that means is everything eliminated, making the left side 0, and then the right side equals 36. This problem here makes absolutely no sense because 0 does not equal 36, so that means that there is no solution. So we don't have to go any further. All right, next problem is the U-try problem. I'm going to do the same thing here. Multiply the top times 3 and the bottom times 5. We already have opposite signs, so we don't have to do anything different with that. So 3 times negative 5 is negative 15x. 3 times 3 is 9y. And 3 times negative 25 is negative 75. Bottom part, 5 times 3 is 15x. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20y. And then 5 times 26, I'll put that one in the calculator. And I get 130. Add these two equations together. 9 and negative 20, that's going to equal negative 11y. And then negative 75 and 130, I'll add those together in the calculator. and it equals 55. Divide each side by negative 11, giving me y equals 55 divided by negative 11 is negative 5. So I have one of my answers. Going to then take the top equation, negative 5x plus 3. Instead of the y value, I'm plugging in my answer, negative 5 equals negative 25. So I want to get rid of the parentheses first. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15, and then equals 25. Wall and floor, I'm going to add 15 to both sides. So I have negative 5x equals negative 25 plus 15 is negative 10. And then I'm going to divide each side by 5, negative 5, and I get x equals negative 10 divided by negative 5 is 2. So final two answers, x is 2, y is negative 5. So just a quick little reminder, elimination is the best method to solve a linear system when both equations are in standard form, meaning your x and y are both on the left side. And one variable will cancel itself out if you add the other equations. And that's pretty much it.